The beauty of baseball is that it is the most romanticized sport of them all. As fans, we mark periods in our lives by baseball. No other sport is quite like baseball. And whoever your favorite baseball player was when you were a kid is likely to be your favorite baseball player the rest of your life. For me, that player was the great Henry Aaron. As a kid growing up in Crawfordville, Georgia, Henry Aaron was my all-time favorite player and my childhood idol. The legendary Henry Aaron's career began in the Negro Leagues, 1952, with the Indianapolis Clowns. At that time, he was a skinny, cross-handed hitting shortstop. And so in the case of Mr. Aaron, he was a right-hand hitter who was hitting with his left hand on top. That is unorthodox. The fear is that you would break your wrist hitting in that manner. Henry Aaron is knocking the cover off the baseball in a highly unorthodox fashion. And the rest, as they say, is history. He would be shortly after discovered by the Boston Braves, who would become the Milwaukee Braves, who of course would become the Atlanta Braves. And Mr. Aaron will go down in this sport as one of his all-time greatest players. But it all began in the Negro Leagues in 1952. For a young Henry Aaron to leave Mobile to go join the Indianapolis Clowns, I think he had the fastest hands through the hitting zone this sport has ever seen.
Hank Aaron finds what he likes and singles into right.
As he himself would say, I never looked for a fastball because I didn't think anyone could get one by me. And he was only hitting about 467 when he was signed away to go join then the Boston Braves. Oh yeah, the Hammer was destined to be one of, and in the eyes from this kid from Crawfordville, Georgia, the greatest baseball player of all time.
Seriously announced that he was going to challenge the great Bambino. Has done it here tonight.
Turn it up some.
By now, Jackie Robinson had broken baseball's color barrier. The major leagues were no longer a pipe dream. This was very real. But Henry Aaron already knew he had the confidence because what he knew is, if I can play in the Negro Leagues, I can play in any league. That's how great the talent was in the Negro Leagues. And for those Negro continue to make their journey and transition into Major League Baseball. What is so remarkable about Henry Aaron's journey to becoming one of the greatest of all time is that he really had no real opportunities to play organized baseball. But young Henry Aaron would take his mother's broomstick, and he learned how to hit bottle caps with a broomstick. And if you can hit a bottle cap with a broomstick, chances are you're going to be able to hit a baseball. And Henry Aaron could hit that baseball. And oh, I would be remiss if I didn't remind you that before he was known as the Hammer, or Hammerin' Hank, his nickname was Pork Chops. The late Don Motley, who was the executive director of the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum, he said, Mr. Aaron, why do they nickname you Pork Chops? And Mr. Aaron looks at him and says, I guess that was the only thing on the menu that I knew how to order. So he found something and he stuck with it.
We so clean.
Buck O'Neill's recollection of Henry Aaron is priceless. They're playing in a spring training game down in Mobile, Alabama, Kansas City Monarchs against the Indianapolis Clowns. Buck and legendary Clowns manager Buster Hayward, they meet at the mound to exchange lineup cards. Buck instantly looks at the lineup card and sees that there's a kid named Aaron batting in the 3-hole. Buster cracks up. He said, "Oh, Buck, you got to see him." Buck said, "Okay, well, we'll see what he got." Well, by the end of that game, this kid, Aaron, had gone 4 for 4 with 2 home runs. Later that night at dinner, Buck says, "Well, Buster, I ain't gonna have to worry about that kid, Aaron." Buster's like, "Buck, what you talking about?" Said, "By the time you get to Kansas City, he gonna be gone." True enough, he was signed away by the Boston Braves.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere. We're gonna be right back.
For young Henry Aaron to go join the Negro League's Indianapolis Clowns in 1952 was truly a litmus test. He had no doubt that he would be able to move through and compete at a high level in the major leagues because of the talent that was there in the Negro Leagues. He gained the confidence that would allow him to ascend. He really never fashioned himself as a power hitter. He was a ball player who believed that he wanted to hit the ball hard every opportunity, and it just happened to go over the fence 755 times. But as I remind folks, he still has over 3,000 hits. His RBI record will likely never be broken, nor will his total base record. He simply did everything right, as Buck O'Neill would say. He was a beautiful ball player, and indeed he was.
The knee is transportable. No matter how tall and how high the mountain is, that if you try hard enough, that you can reach the top.
One of my fondest memories out of so many great memories here at this museum was getting to walk my childhood idol through the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum. And so as we are making this walk through the museum, we get to what is my favorite photograph in the entire exhibition. It's a nondescript photograph of then a very young Henry Aaron, 18 years old. And he looks at me and he says, "Well, Bob, I may have had 2 changes of clothes in that bag, $1.50 in my pocket, and a ham sandwich that my mama had made me, going to go chase that dream." It worked out pretty well for the ham. For a lot of visitors who come in and very I don't know if they were as good as Bob says they are. But then you get to that photograph of a young Henry Aaron. Many of our visitors are shocked to discover that it all began in the Negro Leagues. It opens their eyes to the possibilities that just maybe there could have been some ball players who preceded Henry Aaron that were just as good who never got the opportunity to play in the major leagues. The Negro Leagues Baseball Museum brings them all to life.